Right, we have quite an interesting issue today. It's like a farmyard. Let's have a look. I'm at a farmyard and I'm just painting this staircase, right? Well, at the minute I'm prepping it. As you can see, nice old staircase. You know, it's not in the best condition. But what's the issue we have? This wall has been painted before and you can see the paint is just falling off the surface, which looks like it hasn't been properly mist coated before. When we get to the bottom, and it's all come off. So I've scraped off what I can. Same there, it's kind of all coming off, which I need to sort. But the issue with this wall is that it's wet to the touch. I can feel it. It's actually damp. Now, this is an external wall, but all this, it's wet. And then it kind of stops around about there. Now, if it was rising damp, which it looks like there, even there, it's still too high to be rising damp. Rising damp would only come to about here, because that's roughly about 1 meter, and rising damp won't rise more than 1 meter, where as you can see, it's gone all the way up. And the whole wall is wet to the touch. It's damp, it's like condensation. You can kind of see it there. And what's the reason for this? We need to go outside to see. And there, which is the same wall as that, you can see all the masonry, all the brickwork in here has been painted, and you can see, well, the damp goes all the way up, and all the white masonry paint is damp to the touch. It's all condensated, where all the rest of the brickwork is completely bone dry. Now, the issue there, underneath that little canopy, there's no draft. So the issue is, under that canopy, there's no draft. And with the brickwork being painted, you know, we're in autumn now, there's a lot of moisture in the air, and you'll get moisture sitting on the masonry paint, and it will literally sit there. And then, because the masonry paint is sealing the surface of the brickwork, the water seeps into the brickwork, because the masonry is almost like a sponge that allows the moisture to sit on the surface and then seep through. And it's seeping through and coming through to this side, because this stairwell is warm. So you've got like this. This is bone dry. All this is the same. All this white, it's all condensated. Like, to touch, it's quite damp. It feels damp to touch, and you can see it's all blowing. But on the outside, you can see all the yellow patches, and it's way higher than 1.2 meters. So that tells me it's not rising damp. The woodwork is bone dry. So again, that tells me it's not the roof that's failed. And you can very slightly see a diagonal damp patch all the way up that way, which is the staircase, and that's because the wall is condensating on the outside. It's holding the moisture, and because the room on the inside is warm, exactly the same way a glass of cold water will condensate on the outside. That's because the water's cold on the inside of the glass, and when the warm air touches the outside of the glass, it condensates and turns to a liquid, from a gas to a liquid. It's exactly what's happening here. Imagine this is the outside of a glass, of a glass of water, because the moisture from the outside is attracted to the heat inside, and it's kind of being sucked through. But anyway, this wall, yes, it's all blown, but this wall's bone dry, completely bone dry. This one's wet, and you can see this is an external wall as well. That's an outside, that's a cold wall, and it's a solid cold wall. These walls are all solid. That one is bone dry, and that's because the brickwork on the outside there hasn't been painted. So the brickwork on the outside can breathe, so it doesn't get any moisture sitting on the surface, being kind of sponged in by the paint, whereas that wall does. So this one's bone dry because there is no paint on the outside, and this one's wet because of the paint on the outside, basically trapping moisture. Essentially, what can I do? As you know, I'm here to do a decorating job. Well, not much. Yes, I could get a dehumidifier, but all that's going to do is suck all the moisture through the wall. Well, yeah, it will take away some of the moisture on the surface to an extent, but this is quite a big area, and you know, it's going to take the humidity away out of the air before it starts drawing all the moisture through that wall. And again, it's gonna draw through forever. A dehumidifier on this wall will just keep drawing moisture through forever. So all I can do is potentially get a heater in here, a dehumidifier overnight, hope to dry the surface of the wall for tomorrow after I've prepped it all, and then seal it with Zinsser guards, and then just paint it, knowing full well that the wall is damp. You can see, you know, there's black spot mold on the wall. Literally 3 meters up. Yeah. What's the fix? What is the fix for the job? It's a bit late. I'm essentially here too early. What needs to happen is the wall on the outside, all the masonry on the brickwork outside needs sandblasting off. And then it just needs, you know, a good few weeks to dry, to naturally dry out. That wall is completely saturated. It needs sandblasting off, needs airing out, needs time to dry out naturally. Even though it is autumn, it will dry out naturally. And then yeah, get a dehumidifier in here and dry it that way. But that's not an option right now. The customer knows. I've told the customer that this is the issue. Sandblasting that wall isn't really an option for the customer at this point in time. They just need the stairwell looking nice, and that's their main concern. Another additional issue with the wall, if we turn the camera around, it's all been plastered in gypsum plaster, which isn't breathable. So you've got moisture coming through, and it's getting to the back of the gypsum, and it's condensating, and then the gypsum on the inside is acting like a sponge, a non-breathable barrier that soaks up water because it's a porous surface. It's almost like a catch-22, but gypsum-based modern day plaster isn't breathable, but is porous, so water can penetrate, and that's what's happening. But yeah, let me know if you've come across the same issue. It's quite common, to be fair, on solid brick walls when people paint the outside. People don't realise that the paint will allow moisture to sit on the surface and then bleed through to the internal. Even with a breathable paint, you know, people think a breathable paint will allow moisture to go in and come out. Yes, it will to an extent, but on the outside I had a bit of a scrape on the wall, and there's about 30 years worth of paint on there. There's about 8 different coats, and you can see it as you scrape it off. So it's only breathable to an extent. Yes, 1 coat is breathable, maybe 2 coats are breathable, but 30 years worth of paint. And I wouldn't be surprised if the paint on the outside of that wall at one point was lead-based paint. This building's probably 100 years old, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's all lead-based paint on the outside. But yeah, no work in the video. I just thought I'd point out a common issue when you do paint external walls when there's no cavity in the wall, when it is a solid wall, because essentially, yeah, you'll create a wet surface on the outside that cannot dry, and it allows all the moisture to come through. And it's partly because there's no airflow in there. One of the walls on the entrance to the building, it's like an archway. It's like an archway going through, and all that's been painted masonry as well, and none of it's wet. But that's because you've got a through draft always taking the moisture away. Whereas under that canopy, there's not. You know, you've got the floor that's damp, you've got the walls that hold moisture, and then there's no draft in there to take the moisture away. But yeah, that's it. Let me know if you've come across similar issues. Let me know what you did to sort it.